The Mandalorian and Grogu is out, and I genuinely want to know how they made a Star Wars movie boring. Mando and Grogu follows the duo on a mission to aid the Republic and find and rescue Jabba the Hutt's son. Wait a minute, that's the plot of the Clone Wars movie. Hang on, let me try again. Mando and Grogu are on a mission from the Republic to rescue Jabba the Hutt in exchange for intel on an Imperial warlord. Oh, okay. It's pretty much the Clone Wars movie, except it's more boring. My expectations on this movie were already low, so I went into this with a completely open mind, although I don't think the movie had one. Let's get the pros out of the way first. The film looks good. I thought it was going to look exactly like the show, looking grey and low budgets, but there's a lot more colour and variety with the production and effects. Mando is still cool, and Grogu continues to be cute. They're both still fun characters to follow.
Hey, never touch the buttons.
Ludwig's music is pretty good. There's this little motif that occurs throughout, and it sounds like it came from some 80s retro game. It's a bit unusual, but I really dig it. It has a lighter and a quote-unquote fun tone compared to the show's more darker feeling, but that doesn't really bother me. For a return to cinema Star Wars movie, I get it, you want it to be fun, even if the movie isn't really. It was cool to see Embo brought to live action. That's something I appreciate at least. When Grogu and the Anzellans were paired together, that was funny. Seeing them traveling and talking along the way was one of the few times I actually enjoyed this. The one scene I really enjoyed from start to finish was the opening scene with Mando fighting Imperials and Walkers. There's this whole one take inside the Walker as Mando fights stormtroopers and reaches the cockpit. Best scene of the movie, but at that point the movie either peaked too early or just never reached that level of fun again. Because this movie becomes the unthinkable. A boring Star Wars movie. At points the movie comes off as stakeless. The Empire isn't really the main threat here. It's this pair of twin Hutts. They just come off as not intimidating. They only start causing problems for Mando about halfway through. It's almost like the movie has two plots going on, even though they are connected. You got the Imperial and the Hutt stuff. Not like hot stuff or anything. I didn't say hot. I mean Hutt stuff, not the hot stuff. I'm not saying hot in America, but whatever, you get what I mean. Speaking of Hutts, Jabba the Hutt comes off as a lame character. At first, it's kind of cool that a Hutt is like jacked and is like a gladiator fighter. That's kind of cool, except he loses me with his dialogue. He often says plain generic and basic stuff. Actor Jeremy Allen White isn't given anything to work with. At one point, he literally says how it's hard to be himself when he's the son of Jabba the Hutt. Twice. I mean that as in like one scene he says it and then he says the exact same thing later on in another scene. His character arc at the end comes off as not earned in the sense that it wasn't hinted at or set up properly. And I'm not gonna lie, he was more compelling as a character when he was a baby. I also didn't really like the CGI, particularly those on the characters. While the detail and lighting was good, it came off as looking too animated, too distracting, too fast moving. There is this bit where Mando fights off two large robots and they're animated like they're stop motion. That was actually kind of cool. It was almost like a callback to classic Star Wars. Outside of that, I wasn't a fan of the CGI. Zeb from Rebels is here because of fan service. He doesn't have anything to do outside of briefly aiding Mando in the first half, but that's really it. As I explained at the start, the movie's plot and story just isn't interesting, or even good in my opinion. It feels like 3 to 4 episodes made into one movie. There was actually points where my brother and I tried guessing what would have been the end of an episode and what would have been the start of one. The story also feels very point to point. What I mean by that is that character goes here, character goes there, character says this, character's playing that, character gets taken, character gets rescued, character fights, rinse and repeat. There's no big surprise that really happens to any of these characters. It comes off as very predictable. Because it's mainly on the Hutts and there's no major character development in place, it just makes this movie the last thing you'd expect a Star Wars movie to be. Boring. Even the action was boring. Outside of the opening scene, there's no fight or action scene that got me exhilarated or thrilled. Not to be too mean, of course, it's not like it annoyed me. What did though was this whole 10-minute scene of Grogu looking after Mando after he's knocked out. This goes on for days. I don't know how many, but all I know is that it went on for too long. And I didn't need that in a film that is like 2 hours and 12 minutes. And this movie did not need that runtime at all, especially with a story like this. Yeah, Mandalorian and Grogu is an inoffensive but safe Star Wars project. Mando and Grogu are still a fun pair, the music is great, the tone is light, but some CGI is off, most of the action is boring, there's no character development, and the plot is uninteresting, even worse with its over 2-hour runtime. Honestly, if you just turn your brain off and let the visuals and action wash over you, this movie's just a fine, safe return to cinema for Star Wars. But a Star Wars movie should feel special, it should feel like an event. Even though my expectations were low, I still wanted something that was worth the experience of a Star Wars movie. Tough choice, but but I'll go with a 6 out of 10. That doesn't really mean I think this movie's bad. I just didn't find it fun enough. But what do you think of Mandalorian and Grogu? Let me know in the comments below and leave a like and subscribe while you're at it. I still want Star Wars movies to be in cinema, so if something like this was done to make sure something awesome would come in the future, I'll be happy to wait.